me to do a bunch of stuff, and we don't ask questions. I'm a man who asks questions. When somebody tells me to do something, I don't have any problem. I don't care what their degree is. I will say, where'd you get that from? What is your basis for your logic? How did you come to that conclusion? True story, real quick. When I got my heart surgery, I had to take some drugs for a little while, all right? I hope you're okay with that. But here's the deal. When I did that, I remember that every time they gave me my little cup with my meds, I knew what everything was. So they would put it in my hand. Okay, Mr. Leonard, here's your stuff. And I'll say, okay, I know what that is. I know what that is. I know what this does. I know what that does. I did a lot of research before I went through my procedure. So I'll go ahead. Lord, please, help this stuff not to poison me too much, but, I got to take it right now. So I would take it down, and let it do its job. I remember one day my nurse came in, and there was a black pill. It was like this dark-colored pill. He's like, hey, take that, Mr. Lemon. And I was like, well, I know what this is. I know what this is. What's this pill right here? And he was like, the doctor told me that he wanted you to take that. I said, well, I don't just take stuff because people tell me to. I said, what is it? And he was just like, well, I'm really not sure, but what I could do is get the doctor if you want. So are you saying you're not going to take it? I was like, no, I'm not taking it. I don't know what it is. I don't put strange stuff in my body. I need to know what it is. So he was like, let me get the doctor. He gets the doctor. This is a true story. He gets the doctor, and that doctor comes to the room. What's going on? Well, Mr. Lennon said that he didn't want to take this particular medication. He said, why? I said, because I don't know what it is, and I don't know what it does. And I don't just put stuff in my system because you guys tell me to. I need to know what it is and what it does. And so he said, well, it's really for such and such, and it was for something that I wasn't even struggling with. And so what I told him is, I said, well, I don't have that problem, do I? I said, I watched my levels. I knew how to read everything on that little beeper that kept going when it was hooked up to me. I knew how to read blood pressure. I knew how to read the SpO2 levels. I knew how to read all that stuff. So I'm looking at it every time when the nurses come in. I'm like, yep, everything's fine. Whatever. Now, here's the deal. When they came to me, and when the doctor said, well, Mr. Lemon, this does this, I said, but I don't have that problem. I said, I read my chart. I know how to read labs. So I read my chart. I knew what was going on with me. So I said, I don't have this problem. I don't need to take it. You know what my doctor said? He said, you know what? Fine, don't take it. And then he looked at my wife, and he looked at me and the doctor and the other nurse, and he said, I'm not really sure what it does anyhow.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. You got to remember, folks, the doctors don't even know these drugs very well. What the doctors do is they sit in their offices and they meet a man or a woman who's called a pharmaceutical sales rep. And the pharmaceutical sales rep is the one that really studied that drug. And they say, hey, this is the latest and the greatest to battle cholesterol, and to battle this, and to battle that. And the doctors, they do some research on it, but they let the salespeople do their job. So a lot of times when you go to your physicians and you say, what's that medication all about? What does it do? What's the side effects? How long do I have to take that? Are there alternatives, etc.? When you ask these questions, sometimes they don't even appreciate it. Then other times they do. My point is very simple. When we get to herbs, I am recommending that you become exceedingly and abundantly judicious in your intake of herbs. Don't just take stuff because you read a Google article. You got to be much more responsible than that. I sit under a naturopathic doctor who is also part of my faith and who's been trained as a medical missionary. So they are able to explain things very deeply, very thoroughly. Another person is a medical missionary teacher and also a physician's assistant by trade. These are the people that I sit under when I dialogue and say, tell me about this herb, tell me about this, and we go through contraindications, etc. You got to do that. Don't just pop stuff in your mouth because it's natural. I'm serious. You can get hurt like that, family. I'm being very serious with you. Now, based on this, what are some herbs that we can put in our system that we can take once proper judicious steps have been made? And I'm especially looking at things pertaining to the heart because heart disease is the #1 killer right now. So let's talk about that. When I think about this, there are a few things. If anybody in here is battling with heart disease, these are the kind of things, #1, I would recommend you consider. 2, take to your medical practitioner and say, these are things that I'm looking to take. Do you have a problem with this? Does this counter anything that I'm doing in my procedures? Talk to them about it, okay? #1, motherwort. If you're battling with something called tachycardia, tachycardia is when your heart rate is going too fast. Your heart rate, normal beats per minute, is 60 to 100 beats per minute. Once you pass that 100 beats per minute, you have entered into the world of what's called tachycardia. And in that world of tachycardia, if your heart rate is going too fast, this is where arrest, possible cardiac arrest, possible heart attack, possible heart failure. You got a lot of things that could happen to you, all negative. What are some things in the natural, simple, herbal world that can combat, without negative side effects, or what they call arrhythmias? This is something called motherwort, a very, very beautiful, powerful herb, quite accessible here in London. Everything that I look at, that I'm showing you here, is what they have here in London, thank the Lord, or in England. Number 2, you can't go wrong with your hot peppers. Now, when I talk about hot peppers, I'm talking about chili pepper, I'm talking about cayenne. There's a very specific ingredient in all of the hot peppers, chili pepper, cayenne, and the list goes on, that's called capsaicin. Okay? Capsaicin is very, very powerful, and there's a lot of medical science on this, especially against prostate cancer. It has power to cause apoptosis, which is the literal destruction of cancer cells. And what has been studied on a clinical level, not a lab level. Whenever you hear lab, rats, gerbils, and whatnot. Whenever you hear clinical, people. So when you're looking for herbs and how do they work, look for clinical studies. People. How does it work on people? Okay? Man, you should see the reports that they're showing on how capsaicin works with people battling with prostate cancer. It literally causes a digression in the actual tumors, and it also shows an actual period of experience of apoptosis, which is, again, the destruction of the cancer cells. But also, it's very, very good for the heart. Okay, the capsaicin is very good for the heart because the heat causes the brain to send a signal to cause an inflammatory response to repair cells. And in that reparation of the cells, that is how a lot of, your heart tissue is a big, gigantic grouping of cells and so on. So it brings a lot of healing and repair to the heart. And that's why a lot of people who are on heart formulas will often take some type of hot pepper, something like cayenne or chili peppers, habanero, or the list goes on. Capsaicin is the key thing in that. Then, of course, you have your, what do they call that thing? It's right at the tip of my tongue. It begins with the letter A. Amino acid. Okay. Your amino acid is your CoQ10. Anybody who's battling with heart problems, heart challenges of any kind, CoQ10 is often going to be recommended. This is especially good for people with valvular disease, especially aortic or mitral valve disease. That's when the actual chemical structure of the heart is not working right. The valves. This is very, very good. CoQ10. That's almost a given. Many medical doctors are advocating CoQ10. This one right here is also powerful, powerful, powerful. This one right here is what I recommend for those with blood pressure. If you're battling with high blood pressure, also valvular disease, that is none other than my friend hawthorn berry. Hawthorn berry is phenomenal. It is an absolute cardiac herb. It is an excellent herb for good cardiovascular health. Okay, and that one is called hawthorn berry. So again, we do believe in using herbs. These things can come in super handy for us when we're battling with different issues related to heart disease. Not only that, but they also are very good for things like cancer, blood disorders, and the list goes on. Now, of course, you have one of the most superfood medicines in the world that we all can easily partake of, and I would recommend that you take at least 1 clove of this daily, and that is none other than our friend garlic. You definitely want to get at least 1 clove of that in your salad or something daily, okay? Garlic, okay? Anti-cancer, anti-this, anti-that. Look at this. I mean, when you look at just the power of garlic, okay? Everything from urinary tract infections, kidney infections, cancer cells, it kills these things, treats acne, it kills strep throat, it kills cold sores, it lowers cholesterol, strengthens the immune system, it removes heavy metals from the body, it helps with weight control and weight loss, reduces and regulates blood sugar, it increases insulin production. So again, if we're talking about those who are battling with issues with the pancreas, and of course diabetes, it helps kill and expel many types of worms. It inhibits the leukemia, kills athlete's foot, soothes psoriasis. I mean, you got so many things that garlic has been associated in doing with treatment. Sometimes just taking it alone, other times taking it commingled with other medicines. But in either case, I recommend highly, highly, highly that you get yourself garlic. Now just remember the obvious. If you're going to eat garlic, you know you talk at a distance, right? But not necessarily. You can also take in some fresh lemon water. If you take in fresh lemon water, it's a lot more accessible than a soursop, even though soursop is very good too. But you know, lemon water is accessible to anybody, right? And you can use lemon water, and you can get like, you know, half a cup of that, kind of swish it in the mouth a little bit, obviously swallow it, and it helps put at bay a lot of that garlicky smell. Okay, fresh lemon water. Now, this right here, these are all things that comes right out of the soil that God created himself. This is beetroot. I mean, if you're battling with cardiac issues, you want to make sure that you're getting some beetroot in your diet daily, okay? Beetroot. Now, you can get beetroot one of two ways. You can either juice the beet itself, or you can get it already pulverized in a powder form. Just make sure it's no other ingredients, just beetroot. That's it. But in either case, what are some of the benefits of beetroot? Beet juice has been shown to release nitric oxide. That's the secret component in beet juice. It releases nitric oxide, increasing blood flow and oxygen exchange and improving exercise efficiency. Then on top of that, it also says beetroot supplement resulted in significant increases in exercise duration, peak power, and peak oxygen uptake while exercising. In other words, taking beetroot juice prior to exercise helped heart failure patients exercise longer and stronger and take in more of that vital oxygen, which is imperative if you go through heart failure. It says beetroot has been shown in study after study to lower what? Blood pressure, a major issue for heart failure patients, so the benefits just keep coming in. So more and more people are getting involved in beetroot, okay? Beetroot is very excellent if you're battling with these things. If there's one thing that I would highly recommend that you also consider to put in your diet or in your supplemental region, again, you can talk with your medical practitioners about it, is something called curcumin. There's a lot of studies right now on curcumin. You ever heard of turmeric? Okay. And you heard about some of the medicinal properties of turmeric? The biggest thing about turmeric is its anti-inflammatory agencies, okay? It helps remove inflammation from the blood. Inflammation is a cause for everything from cancer to heart disease, and the list goes on. Turmeric is very, very good for anti-inflammatory response. The only problem is turmeric is also high in what's called oxalates. Have any of you ever battled with kidney stones? If you've battled with kidney stones, you want to be careful about your oxalate intake because high oxalates can produce kidney stones. So what's one of the things people are doing now? They're removing from the actual turmeric and they're getting the direct product from the turmeric that has all the anti-inflammatory responses. That's called curcumin. And so that's why a lot of people now are taking curcumin supplements. And they're taking that, and you can pretty much take that almost daily, and it combats things from neurological battles and challenges all the way down to heart disease and cancer. The point is very simple. God has created many, many things for us that we might fulfill his words. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. He has given us his blueprint plan, his laws of health. And he says, that's the first thing I want you to do, first. But then after that, God says, hey, but outside of that, you have many other things that you can do. This is for those who have this is for those who can budget for it. If you can budget for this, I highly recommend that you get one of these, okay? Infrared saunas. More and more study, more and more research is showing the benefits of infrared saunas. How they help battle neurological disorders, how they help battle cardiac disorders, and how they even battle cancer itself. It's through a treatment called hyperthermia. Hyperthermia, turning up that body heat very high. And so it is that infrared saunas, now these work different from steam saunas. Steam saunas only cover topical, they penetrate just a little bit beneath the skin, that's it. Infrared saunas penetrates way down to the cellular level in the body. They're completely different. In a steam sauna, if you're hypertensive, you need to be very careful because it'll speed up your heart rate to a point of danger. If it's an infrared sauna, you can go in at 150 degrees, almost 180 degrees. And you can sit in it and you can enjoy it while reading a book. It has a completely different impact. It's dry heat. And so infrared, there's a ton of studies on the benefits of infrared, and again, especially for cardiac patients. And so again, there's a lot that's out there that the world at large is letting us know works great. Harvard Health Publications from Harvard Medical School says researchers from the University of Eastern Finland tracked 2,300 middle-aged men for an average of 20 years. They categorized the men into 3 groups according to how often they used a sauna each week. The men spent an average of 14 minutes per visit baking in 175 degrees Fahrenheit. Over the course of the study, 49% of men who went to a sauna once a week died, compared with 38% of those who went 2 to 3 times a week, and just 31% of those who went 4 to 7 times a week. Frequent visits to a sauna were also associated with lower death rates from cardiovascular disease and stroke. This is also very, very good for cancer patients. So again, my family and I, we were privileged to eventually get one of those. And when we did, we go in it. I mean, I go in my sauna at least 4 to 5 days a week. And you will find that it's wonderful. True story. Heart disease. One of the number one things that a doctor looks for when it comes to a person's heart is something called your EF. Okay? It stands for ejection fraction. It's your body's, it's your heart's ability. Like right now, you get blood pumping all the way to the tips of your fingers, the tips of your toes, to the top of your head, to the tip of your nose. We get blood pumping everywhere through our body. You know why the heart does that? It's because of your ejection fraction. Okay? It has the ability to push the blood out and get it all throughout our vessels and, you know, what have you. Okay? Ejection fraction. In heart failure, your ejection fraction typically is going to get damaged. It's going to go down. And it can drop sometimes down to 20%. So what's happening is you'll start noticing edema, you'll get the water in your legs, and you go through all of these different things. They have literally found that when your heart ejection fraction has dropped as a result of frequent sauna treatments, it actually boosts your ejection fraction back up. When I got my heart surgery, normal ejection fraction is 50 to 65%. When I got my heart surgery, I was at 60%. It dropped down to about 55-50% after surgery, which is normal. That happens in heart surgery because you're not supposed to have heart surgery. As a result of doing my treatments in my sauna, I went to see my cardiologist about 6 months after. 6 months of treatment. My ejection fraction went back up to 60%. So I'm a living witness that sauna treatments really do work for cardiac care. And so the point is very simple, family. God has allowed us to have access to many things in the simple natural world because the infrared heat is very similar to the heat that comes directly from the sun. And this is why, again, sometimes where you live in warm climates, people do something called sunbathing. Okay? The bottom line is, my brothers and sisters, God has a lot in the world of natural remedies. They're all designed to help us fulfill those wonderful words of 3 John and verse 2, which says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul